redeeming social value of this work, a primary source for anyone researching antebellum New York, the Miller Heresy, the California Gold Rush, or its author, a significant historical figure in her own right, and with Victorianism's eclipse, it no longer offends contemporary community standards relating to the description or representation of sexual matters. We are not all historians, however. It is fair to ask, now that the scandal surrounding its first publication is forgotten, and on drugstore book racks the works of Genet and de Sade brazenly return our stare, now that we are permitted to read Belle Cora, why should we read it? For most of us, the answer will be found in the spell its remarkable author, with her special brew of guile and honesty, is still able to cast upon us. Like an old French postcard, Belle Cora has survived long enough to substitute other charms for its fading erotic appeal. Although Anderson, a.k.a. Arabella Godwin, Arabella Moody, Harriet Knowles, Arabella Talbot, Arabella Dickinson, Frances Dickinson, Arabella Ryan, and Belle Cora was certainly a flawed human being, many readers have found her book as companionable as she herself was in her bloom. Flaunting her beauty and wealth on the gayest thoroughfares and on every gay occasion, with senator, judge, and citizen at her beck and call. She was not entirely a novice when she began Belle Cora, having previously ghostwritten 2 books credited to her third husband, and having published, under her own name, the considerably less candid autobiography, My Life with James Victor Anderson. It is safe to say that nothing in those works prepared their readers for this one, with its pitiless scrutiny of matters concerning which her contemporaries maintained a systematic silence. Nostalgic without sentimentality, Mrs. Anderson has performed the feat of seeming modern to more than one generation. She speaks as clearly as ever across expanding gulfs of time, telling us what it was like to be in places long since obliterated, making the nearly impossible choices that most of us have been spared. Prior to the publication of her memoir, the general outline of Belle Cora's moment in history was known through several multi-volume works on the subject of Gold Rush-era California, reminiscences by members and opponents of the 1856 San Francisco Vigilance Committee, and a series of articles in the San Francisco Bulletin by the popular feature writer Pauline Jacobson. The more personal and private events of her childhood and adolescence in New York, as astonishing in their own way as those for which historians had remembered her, were unknown until these confessions appeared. In fact, it is one of Mrs. Anderson's unintended accomplishments to have helped correct, just as it was coming into existence, a false impression given by many books and films about the Far West, the myth of a Western type, with its own accent and code of honor, a romanticization of the old-timers and third-generation Westerners encountered by the writers and filmmakers of the 1920s. It is too easy to forget that when the West was really a frontier, most of its inhabitants were new to it. They met as immigrants from many distant points of origin, as ill-assorted as the crates of shovels, cigars, pineapples, mosquito nets, and upright pianos that landed on San Francisco's chaotic shores in 1849. And they were also immigrants from another time, from decades of naive piety, climaxing 5 years earlier in the bitter fiasco of Millerism, when people had stood on hills and rooftops waiting for Jesus to appear in the sky. Mrs. Anderson, in her eagerness to justify her actions, to explain how she became an immoral woman, gives us this eastern background of the West. It is with pride that I present, complete in 1 volume, the confessions of the notorious widow of the gambler Charles Cora. Arthur Adams Bayliss, Ph.D., New York, 1967.
Author's Introduction. My experiences in the April 1906 earthquake in San Francisco have led me to write this book, so I suppose I'll begin there. When the first trembler came, I was in bed. It was 5:12 a.m. I was dreaming the dream I have had at least once a year for the greater part of my life, that I was an innocent farm girl in upstate New York. In this edition of the dream, my aunt's hands were gripping my shoulders. Her husky voice implored me to wake up. There was work to be done. I kept my eyes shut, knowing very well that when I awoke I wouldn't be on the farm. She didn't understand that, naturally. She was dead. She kept shaking me. At last she pulled her arm back and struck me so hard she knocked my head against the wall, and the floor beneath us started to sway. I knew then where we really were. We were at sea.